Alcohol fads have come and gone throughout history. Who can forget the toxic absinthe wave that swept France off its feet? And it seems like only yesterday when all those Four Locos had to be pried from the hands of unconscious college students across America. But no recent drink trend made as big a splash as Hard Seltzer. And one brand stood a tall boy higher than the rest. White Claw. Fizzy, refreshing, crystal clear, and tasteless enough to be flavored with just about anything, those crispy White Claws had a hold on us. But how exactly did our refrigerators wind up stuffed with enough multicolored seltzer cans to make a Baskin-Robbins blush? Well, today we're popping the tab on the history of White Claw and the rise and fall of Hard Seltzer. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History Food channel. After that, leave us a comment and let us know what other food-related topics you would like to hear about. All right, let's crush some claws. With all this hard seltzer crowding everyone's fridge, you might be wondering just what the stuff actually is. Well, the answer is pretty simple. Hard seltzers are typically brewed much like beer, made up of sugar, water, and a little yeast. The concoction is at first remarkably similar. Then as the yeast starts the fermentation process, the sugar is almost fully dissolved by the carbonation occurring in the water. This chemical reaction turns into alcohol and is supplemented with fruit extracts or artificial flavoring. It's rice alcohol in most cases, which gives the drink a neutral base flavor, uncommon in some heavier grains used for beer. Also, unlike yellowy grain alcohols like rye or wheat, rice alcohols maintain a clear, crystalline quality, which is how you get to the approximately 1,100 different varieties of White Claw. So, now that we know what it is, it's time to ask, where the heck did it come from? Humans have been pounding brews for 13,000 years and still going strong. In fact, we were getting hammered on the stuff long before we even learned how to ride horses, which is a good sign that you should never drink and horse. But times have changed, and in our modern health-conscious world, nobody wants to be saddled with a beer gut. And since reducing our alcohol consumption is a ridiculous suggestion, the only solution is a drink with fewer calories. Many attempts have been made throughout the years to find a solution to this perplexing dilemma. How do you achieve a healthier version of the refreshing buzz taste appeal of a cold beer on a warm day? Sure, there's the middling old vodka and soda, but who wants to sacrifice all concepts of flavor and enjoyment for a healthier hangover? Well, in 2012, a fifth-generation beer brewer named Nick Shields was floating this very notion. Eventually, his wandering mind bubbled over and he turned his garage into a veritable mad scientist's lab to conduct his beer replacement experiments. His goal, in his own words, was to bridge the gap between beer, wine, and cocktails with a new kind of alcoholic beverage. Within a year, the small-time brewer's efforts yielded a strange new concoction which he quickly branded Spiked Seltzer. We all remember Spiked Seltzer, don't we? Before Shields got his garage brewing groove on, the beverage industry made many attempts at developing other so-called beer replacements for similar reasons. Years prior to the seltzer craze, a new wave of malted drink called wine coolers became a brief fascination all over the world. These sugary, fruity bellyaches in a bottle were wildly popular due to smart marketing and playful ad campaigns. And while it's one thing to call a wine cooler less filling than a bottle of brewski, the high sugar content of the drinks doesn't really make them any more slimming. Bartles and James were almost certainly diabetic. After the wine cooler fad chilled in the public eye, and eventually to a full-on freeze-out, a new bottle came to town. Something lean, sleek, sexy, something with a really cool name like Zima. When Zima burst onto the beverage scene like a brew out of hell, initial sales were through the roof. But just a few short years later, the beverage, which basically tasted like someone spilled booze into a Fresca, had been almost completely wiped from memory. Despite extremely brief resurgences every few years, Zima has also gone the way of the wine cooler and is extinct from liquor stores across the globe. And what do these two particular instances have in common, you might ask? Well, some marketing experts call it the dude factor. You see, because wine coolers were specifically marketed towards women, and because Zima attracted female customers, whether the company liked it or not, the drinks were seen as feminine and became a punchline for late-night gags. And once you convince a bunch of beer-drinking guys that Zima is a chick drink, they're simply never going to buy it. Enter Mike's Hard Lemonade, a new contender to the beer replacement throne. When hard soda and cider brands like Mike's Hard hit the markets, they took plenty of lessons from the Zima and wine coolers debacle of years past. With dark, edgy branding and macho ad campaigns, these beverages took aim at a distinctly male customer base. They almost look like they should come with an action figure. Heck, even Smirnoff Ice got in on the action with the ridiculous and quite successful Smirnoff Ice Challenge campaign. If you were in college in the aughts, you remember this game. Well, maybe you remember it. During the peak of hard sodas, many consumers had grown sick of troublesome little issues like diabetes and long-term illnesses, and had finally started to shun the needless intake of sugary drinks. By 2015, the non-alcoholic seltzer brand LaCroix experienced an all-time high in sales. These zero sugar, zero calorie, zero anything cans are best served ice cold, but in the right circumstances, consumers found a perfect replacement for big-name soda brands. It seemed like LaCroix was everywhere, and everyone just had to have those nifty, colorful boxes in the back of their fridge. With a mid-2010s major shift in healthy consumption on the rise, it was only a matter of time before consumers started boozing differently too. In 2015, the same year Nick Shields developed his spiked seltzer, the brand was on its way to 250,000 cases sold in a year. That's a lot of cans from a guy who came up with the whole shebang in his garage, but spiked seltzer happened to be in the right place at the right time, and its success is largely due to a shifting view on sugary drinks in society at large. According to a contemporary study, 65% of consumers seek functional benefits from their food and beverages, and with a growing number of known food illnesses and allergies, hard seltzer's impressive boast of low to no calories, carbs, and sugars is a big win. It's gluten-free, it's keto approved, and with an ABV so low, even grandma can rip open a can. In the end, Shields sold off his spiked seltzer company to the Anheuser-Busch Corporation, where it was rebranded to another name that nobody really remembers. Every fad needs its king of the crop, and with the OG spiked seltzer out of the way, it was time for a new brand to take the throne. That brand was White Claw, founded in 2016 by Anthony Von Mandel. Incidentally, Von Mandel is the owner of Mark Anthony Brands, the producers of Mike's Hard. This guy apparently had the golden touch, or whichever flavor of Mike's Hard is your favorite. Originally conceived as a vodka-based alternative for beer-shunning Canadians, Von Mandel saw a huge opportunity for American growth and brought his product stateside. With a closely guarded trade recipe, the slightly yeasty malt-based beverage soon became a major contender in the alcohol industry. But it wasn't until 2019, when the brand began a successful ad campaign geared at a male audience, that the drink truly soared. Sound familiar? These ads went viral and led to a massive spike in success. 1 year later, the booze industry met its greatest patron yet, the COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 lockdown brought new levels of health consciousness and also day drunkenness. With no bars to go to and limited bubbles of friends to see, for some people, getting hammered at home was one of the only options for passing time. And many people weren't interested in packing on the pounds downing cases of beer. The health-forward attitude of White Claw's branding helped propel the beverage even further in such desperate times. When you mask up for one jog a week, who wants a heavy beer to waste that hard work? And when folks finally took to the streets for parties, parks, and pleasure once more, many brought their post-lockdown hard seltzers with them. This created a frenzied cycle of social media White Claw sightings and impulse liquor store purchases based on FOMO, or fear of missing out. FOMO is a powerful tool. As White Claw slashed its way to explosive sales and high consumer interest, new brands began appearing on the market. These competing hard seltzers spread like wildfire across the nation, or like a spilled can of seltzer, and quickly dominated beer aisle shelves everywhere. From Bud Light's own hard seltzer offshoot to the highly regarded Truly, these newcomers offered new flavors and varieties in dazzling succession. From dragon to passion, every fruit you could possibly imagine. Rosemary infusions, basil mint hybrids, hibiscus, ginger, and everything in between. While the aforementioned Truly certainly had its day in the sun, and even Mike's Hard Lemonade got in on the action as a competing in-house fan favorite, no other hard seltzer was able to dominate quite like the Claw. And though there may still come a day when the king is dethroned, it appears as though the entire kingdom of hard seltzers may be in danger. Though White Claws and various other brands had continued success in the wake of early lockdown dismissals, the industry at large would ultimately struggle to maintain its momentum. In the years following the first major COVID wave, sales had absolutely tanked. As of 2021, industry sales were said to be growing at a sturdy 16%. Just a year later, this would crash to a brutal 2% growth rate. That's worse than a warm can of Claw. But it's hard to pinpoint exactly what went wrong. Whether the rapid decline in popularity is due to an overflow of products, brands, and bad knockoffs, or a general question of why we ever liked it in the first place. The data is ongoing. But one thing is for sure, those White Claws just don't seem to hit like they used to. Was the fascination with hard seltzer all in the name of fitness and worldwide sickness? Could it all have been just a strange dream? Or was it simply the next phase of the ongoing cycle of drink fads? A new fad may be on the rise. There's a new water-like alcoholic sheriff in town, and this one is non-carbonated. The eerily named Mom Water is currently gaining momentum as we speak, and it's basically just a can of water with a splash of the good stuff. But maybe we're all just finally coming around from a massive hard seltzer hangover. So what do you think? Are you still packing White Claws to the party, or did you have a different seltzer of choice? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're there, check out some of these other weird history food videos.